associated with the greatest achievements in the ancient Egyptian history, has constructed here in Abu Simbel a miracle by all means. It's a great temple of Simbel. This is the biggest cut-out rock temple in the whole world, and the most wonderful one too. It was built to impress the southern enemies of Egypt, but the result was that it impressed the whole world, and it continues to amaze the people who come to visit it every day, every single day, especially during the alignment of the sun in 2 days each year, the 22nd of February and 22nd of October. It amazes us till today. Being the center of trade between the northern part of the valley, or Egypt, and the southern part of it, or Sudan, Aswan acquired the attention of the ancient Egyptian pharaohs, who were keen on establishing their power over it and sent military campaigns further south from it to secure Egypt's borders in Lower Nubia. The best proof of that are the monuments left by them and the territory governors and even the Greeks and the Romans throughout the entire Egyptian history. Amongst the important monuments of the south are the 2 temples of Abu Simbel, which were cut out in the rocks of the mountains by the Nile 280 kilometers south to Aswan. This area was considered sacred at least 500 years before Ramesses II thought of executing this great achievement, for inscriptions that belong to the late Middle Kingdom were found here, in the land of the goddess of Abshik, goddess Hathor. Here, Ramesses II cut out 2 temples, the great one dedicated to God Ra-Hur-Akhti and Amun-Ra and Ptah, and to himself. The smaller one was consecrated to goddess Hathor and to his wife Queen Nefertari in her divine image. According to the traditions of constructing a temple, the foundation panels were placed ahead of it. They're cut out inside niches in the mountain and relieved in sunk reliefs to be best preserved. In these niches, Ramesses records his victories over the Asians and the Africans, and present offerings to Amun-Ra, and purifies with incense God Ra-Hur-Akhti. The front open court of the temple was surrounded from the north and the south with walls built of mud bricks. The northern wall separates between it and the small temple, where a sandy valley exists. Both temples were cut out at the front of 2 slopy sandstone hills reaching the Nile bank. In 1917, Belzoni discovered the temples to be totally submerged under the sand, except for the head of one of the 4 statues of King Ramesses II. Lepsus, then Mariette, and finally Parasenti cleared them out in 1910 and built high walls above the hill in which the temples were cut out to protect them from the flowage of sand. Parasenti has also covered the descending way to the Nile with rocks and built steps leading to the open court. When the construction of the high dam started in 1960, the water level behind it was expected to rise over 133 meters above sea level. The great temple of Abu Simbel was just 124 meters higher, and the small one 120 meters only. Submerging under the Nile water was inevitable. In 1964, the UNESCO began a rescue mission that seemed impossible. Its plan was dismantling the stones of the temples in the most accurate way and reconstructing them in a new higher location. The challenge was the preservation not only of the natural rock-cut image of both temples, but also of the miraculous engineering phenomena of the sun alignment, over the statues inside the sanctuary of the Great Temple that happens only twice a year, in the 20th of February and the 20th of October. The new location of the temples was chosen 65 meters higher and directed 180 degrees northwest of the original location. That difference shifted the days to 2 later days. This massive work ended in just 4 years in 1968 and costed 16 million Egyptian pounds, of which Egypt paid the third, the United States the third, and 50 European countries the last third. The first pharaoh who started restorations here was King Seti II. He restored the first statue on the left of the entrance, which showed signs of damage. Just like all pharaohs, King Ramses II wanted to commemorate his name with the gods. And indeed, by his great constructional achievements, represented best in Abu Simbel temples, he'll be remembered with glory forever. In 1257 BC, Ramses II accomplished the great construction of Abu Simbel Grand Temple, and being totally cut out into the stones, the front part was finished first, which is the facade, with its giant and small statues. The facade of the temple rises to the height of 33 meters. Above the top frieze stand 22 baboons, raising their hands up and cheering for the sun when it rises between the summits of the high mountains stretching along the east bank of the Nile. With such a magnificent view, they wouldn't have been able to sit still. Below the frieze is a cavito cornice decorated with the royal cartouches of Ramses II, surrounded by cobras to protect them. The 4 colossal figures of the king are surrounded by 12 life-sized statues of his family, including 3 princesses and 1 prince, his mother Tui, and his wife Nefertari, who is represented 3 times. There are many manuscripts carved on these giant statues, the most important of which is the one written during the reign of King Pasimatic II between 593 and 588 BC, during the 26th dynasty. It was inscribed over the left leg of the statue on the left side of the entrance. On both sides of the 2 giant statues beside the entrance, there are representations of the captives who were enemies of Egypt. Here, Ramses II records his victories below the giant figures of the Nile god Habi, holding the 2 symbols of the north and south of Egypt, the lily or the lotus and the papyrus flowers, symbolizing that Egypt was united under the reign and power of Ramses II. The captives of the north are on the bottom of the northern statue. They are the Asians. As for the captives of the south, they are on the side of the southern statue, and they are the Africans. Usually the words that show the power of the king are carved on the pylons of the temple, but since there are no pylons here, his victories were recorded inside. After passing through the giant gate of Abu Simbel, we find ourselves in the giant hypostyle hall. The height of the hall is 8 meters, and its length is 18 meters, and breadth is 16 meters. The inscriptions here say that the right half of the temple is dedicated to God Ra-Hur-Akhti, or Horus of the horizon, and the left half to God Amun-Ra, the sun god. The hall is divided into 2 halves. In the middle are 2 rows of pillars, 4 on each side. These are Osiris statues, when the king stands in a mummified position, imitating God Osiris, wearing the double crown on the right side and the white north crown on the left. The impact which these statues leave on the beholder, being that giant, in a relatively small space, is quite massive, for they are artistically highly estimated concerning their design and their execution. The ceiling is totally painted in the middle with repetitive scenes of the falcon spreading its wings. On both sides are celestial scenes of stars, and they are all colored. On the right side, the king hits the Asian captives in front of God Ra-Hur-Akhti, who hands him the bent sword, symbol of royalty. Below the scene are 9 of his daughters carrying sistrums. On the left wall, Ramses meets the African enemies in front of God Amun-Ra, and below him 8 of his sons. There are almost 1,100 scenes picturing the daring war of the king fighting in Kadesh War, the most significant of which is him in the 5th year of his reign fighting the king of the Hittites, Hattusili, who tried to trap him, but Ramses' alertness and super bravery replaced defeat into rapid victory, the victory which Ramses recorded on the walls of all his temples across the country and was extremely proud of until the last day of his life. Of the hypostyle hall in the great temple of Abu Simbel is filled with scenes depicting Kadesh war scenes, and they are familiar being carved in King Ramses II other temples like Abydos temple and the temples of the east bank of Luxor and the Ramesseum. That's where there was enough space to relieve more details about the enemy's defeat. There we see the Orontes River filled with the Hittites' dead bodies and the chaotic state of the enemies who were desperately trying to come out of the river and flee the scene with the help of their fellows. In Abu Simbel, the space is so small compared to other temples, taking into consideration that it's cut out in the rocks and there are no outer walls, leaving a limited space on the interior walls for recordings. One of the rare war scenes is the one that describes the Egyptian camp of war. The camp is surrounded by walls with gates, guarded all the time by soldiers. Inside the camp, the other soldiers are resting. The scenes show them feeding the horses and fixing the broken wooden tires of the war chariots. The wounded are being tended to and cured. The scene can't be completed without showing the temple where everyone prayed for Ammon to have his blessings. There is a general air of serenity in the camp, for the Egyptian soldiers have full confidence in their leader King Ramses II, who led them thousands of kilometers to the northeast to establish the Egyptian domination over these lands all the way up to the Orontes River. Their sense of nationalism has been planted deep into their souls since the dawn of history, and securing the Egyptian borders from all the directions was the key to their people's life in peace and the reassuring of the mighty state and power of Egypt in the old world. The sanctuary is the most important and sacred chamber in any temple in Egypt. Since the temple itself is considered the house of God on earth, then there must be a private chamber dedicated just for him and considered the focal point of the building. It's the Holy of the Holies, or the sanctuary. Abu Simbel Temple enjoys a sanctuary that was unique in its contents. In fact, they are the contents of that sanctuary which share the most in the famosity of Abu Simbel Temple. In the middle of the room, there is the remaining of the altar that was cut out in the rocks of the mountain, just like the rest of the temple. The altar was made for the rest of the sacred bark. Behind it are 4 big statues of 3 seated gods and the king. The gods are God Amon, God Rahur Akhti, God Betah, and King Ramses II himself in his divine entity. The engineering miracle of Abu Simbel is in the degree of the construction of the temple, which faces the east in a way that allows the rays of the rising sun to penetrate through the door and travels in the exact middle way of the temple, reaching the sanctuary, which lies on one axis with the door. But that's not all. The rays start shining on the faces of the gods one after one, from right to left, starting with Rahur Akhti and ending with Betah in the dark. It's quite observed that Ramses is seated right in the middle, beside Amon, the sun god, to whom the temple was consecrated. At sunrise, a splendid halo of dignity and solemnity circulates these statues and make any spectator believe in its magical influence, which is calculated accurately according to the science of astronomy and engineering of the ancient Egyptians, and directed towards a certain angle to let the rays fall on the faces of these 4 statues in rare moments when the power of gods joins between nature and man in the most glorified and noble way.